Hi everyone. In this presentation, I apply Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative to a concrete moral cause. The case is robbing a bank. Rather than focusing on emotions or outcomes, Kant asks us to evaluate actions based on moral principles that should apply to everyone. This case allows us to clearly see how Kant's ethical framework works in practice. So, Kant does not offer just one test for morality, but three closely connected formulations of the same moral law. I will briefly explain each formulation and then apply it to the act of bank robbery to determine whether the action can be morally justified. This presentation is part of Global Ethics course. I will now move into the ethical scenario itself. Now the case chosen is robbing a bank. Imagine a person who robs a bank because they want or need money. At first glance, some might try to justify the action by pointing to financial pressure or desperation. However, Kant's ethics requires us to look past circumstances and examine the moral principle behind the action itself. Kant's ethical theory is deontological, meaning it focuses on duty rather than outcomes. An action is not moral because it produces good results, but because it follows a moral rule. The central rule in Kant's system is the categorical imperative, which serves as a test for whether an action is morally acceptable for all rational beings. So, to apply Kant's theory, we examine the action of bank robbery through each of the three formulations of the categorical imperative. So, these three formulations express the same moral idea in different ways. The first asks us whether the action could become a universal rule. The second asks whether people are treated with respect rather than used. The third asks us whether rational members of a moral community would agree to live under such a rule. So, a maxim is simply the rule a person is following when they act. In this case, the rule is, I will rob a bank when I need money. If everyone followed this rule, banks could not exist, and the concept of property would collapse, because the action undermines the very system it relies on. It fails Kant's test of universalization. Kant argues that humans must always be treated as ends in themselves, never merely as tools. In a bank robbery, employees and customers are used as obstacles or instruments to obtain money. Their dignity and autonomy are ignored, which directly violates Kant's principle of respect for persons. The Kingdom of Ends imagines a moral community where everyone is both a rule maker and rule follower. A law permitting theft would undermine trust and cooperation. Since no rational person would agree to live under such a rule, bank robbery fails this formulation as well. So when we applied all three formulations together, The conclusion is consistent. Bank robbery fails every moral test Kant provides. It cannot be universalized, it disrespects human dignity, and it cannot be accepted by rational moral agents. So, in the real world, this means that moral obligations do not disappear during hardship. Kant theory supports the idea that laws against theft are not merely practical rules, but reflections of deeper moral duties we owe to one another. So, the Kant ethical framework and its application to moral decision making are philosophically grounded in these sources. Thank you for listening. I look forward to your feedback and discussion.